predator with a giant maw, a deep water monster that's capable of devouring prey that's 10 times heavier than themselves, a lobster with saw-like claws, the most dreadful sharks, prehistoric monsters that fortunately died out long ago. In this episode, you'll see these and many other most frightening animals of the ocean in history. Well, before we get to the main part of this episode, I suggest that you take a look at a creepy picture that was sent to me by a subscriber. The photo shows a huge monster that resembles a giant sea snake or a monster from the depths of the ocean. Its mouth is wide open, exposing many sharp teeth, and its eyes look empty and sinister. Do you think this monster's real? Write the answer in the comments. Sarcastic fringehead. The first animal in this selection has a pretty cute name. You can't tell that behind it there's such a creature. Sounds like something out of a horror movie, doesn't it? And you'll be seeing a lot more of them today. Actually, the appearance is exactly the same as the essence. The sarcastic fringehead is an intimidating predator. He usually waits at his shelter. As soon as the enemy swims up to it, the fish jumps out, it opens its giant mouth, and it destroys the prey. In the same way, the sarcastic fringehead can effectively scare predators away from it. In addition, the intimidating mouth is an effective weapon in the fight with congeners. When fighting for territory, two males bite each other with sharp teeth. The size of their jaws and bite allows you to determine who's the master in the house. This monster dwells not so deep. You can say that almost at the surface, so it can be stumbled upon by divers. The fish can scare them and bite them. Fortunately, not fatal, although painful. Gulper eel. No diver will encounter this inhabitant of the ocean. The gulper eel lives at a depth of more than 3 miles, with even no bath escape descending there. But the neighbors at depth are not enviable. First, the gulper eel is a rather large fish. It can grow to about 6.5 feet in length. Secondly, it's characterized by incredible gluttony. The fish is able to swallow the prey, exceeding in length of its own. In this, it helps her huge mouth, in honor of which the creature got its name. The fish inflates the throat bag, which gives the impression that a huge balloon with an elongated tail moves through the water. The inflated mouth is filled with prey, after which the large mouth holds it, eats it, and digests it for a long time. If a person encountered such a creepy thing in the ocean, it's possible that he would have a heart attack. It's a real demon in the flesh. Well, or viperfish, scientifically speaking. Fortunately for us, these monsters also live at great depths, and they die on the surface within a few hours. Such an environment too unusual for them. But at depth, viperfish do a real mayhem, scare everyone with their creepy eyes and sharp teeth, and mercilessly massacre their prey, leaving her no chance to save. Scientists believe that the viperfish is no worse than the same largemouth. It too can eat a large prey. Not so big though, still the sea viper is much smaller than the creepy deep-sea eel. More on that next. Next up, we have a very creepy sea creature. It looks like it has modified its body with sharp claws that it uses to cut everyone. Its claws are too intimidating. Interestingly, the creature is called a lobster with creepy claws. Its official name is Latin, Dinochelys ausabelli. The monster was discovered recently in 2007 in the Philippines. It lives deep underwater, and it's not often shown to the eyes of scientists, but they still manage to study it a little. The main feature of the lobster, 2 claws, which differ in size but are similar in appearance, both dotted with sharp teeth. It's also known that the lobster is completely blind, and for people it's clearly not a threat. First, it lives at a decent depth, and second, its size is only 1.2 inches. But don't get too relaxed. Not all creepy creatures live somewhere deep in the ocean. You can stumble upon scary monsters right at the surface of the water, or even on the shore. What do you think of this monster? A fish with an intimidating mouth, large eyes, and a huge dorsal fin that looks like part of a dragon's body. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to stumble upon one. Its name is the fanged predatory lancetfish, and it's no longer as modest as the same lobster. Its length can grow up to 6.6 feet. In addition, it's a real predator that's capable of hunting mollusks, crustaceans, and fish, and it does this with the fanged predatory lancetfish in any direction, even horizontally or vertically. Also, the sea dragon eats its own relatives. and it just scares everyone around with its creepy look. It's not surprising that it received a name consonant with dinosaurs. The fish is quite like the creepy prehistoric reptiles. And now that I've mentioned prehistoric creatures, why not take a break from modern times and take a look at a couple of sea monsters from back then? Believe me, back then there were even creepier and stranger creatures in the ocean. Like the Tully monster. The name alone is a mouthful, isn't it? And it's epic in appearance. It's hard to even describe this thing. It's some kind of hybrid between a squid, Loch Ness monster, eel, lamprey, and worm. There's also some kind of horizontal thing stuck across its body. No wonder that scientists are still arguing about what class and group of animals should be attributed to this mysterious creature. But scientists have figured something out. In fact, that thing that protrudes, it's not a mouth with teeth on a long neck, but a claw. And that thing across the body is an outgrowth flanked by Tully monster's eyes. This very strange sea creature swam in the ocean about 300 million years ago, fed with a claw, and, well, that's all we know about it. What happens if you cross a seahorse and a giant worm, make it as creepy as possible, and send it back 400 million years in a time machine? You get a bobbit worm, another prehistoric creature that, fortunately for us, is long extinct. Otherwise, many people would refuse to go into the sea knowing that this monster lives there. In fact, it's a huge polychaete worm that grows up to 3.5 feet in length. It had a predatory lifestyle, preyed on the inhabitants of the bottom layers of the sea. Bobbit worm's jaws reached 0.4 inches in length and could open 180 degrees, that is, at full width. Open jaws of a huge worm are the last thing that poor people saw that were mercilessly eaten by this monster. By the way, scientists have calculated that the force of compression of the jaws of the bobbit worm was enough to bite in half even a medium-sized fish. In general, it's good that this monster remained somewhere in the very distant past. When you look at this sea creature, there are a lot of questions. Who is it? Character from a horror movie? The work of a neural network? A virus if it had a bodily shell? It's neither one of those things, nor a third. It's another prehistoric creepy thing, Securitis. It's a very distant relative of modern roundworms and insects, and some even believe it's a very distant ancestor of ours. It lived over 500 million years ago. A huge mouth on half of the body, dotted with some nasty growths around the perimeter of the body, some outgrowths that resemble eyes. Many may assume that it's the main and most dangerous predator of its time, but it's not like that at all. In fact, Securitis is a primitive protozoan just over 0.04 inches in size. This poses a question. If even large prehistoric creatures can be hard to find, how did scientists ever manage to discover these babies? It happened by accident. Paleontologists worked with soil over 500 million years old. They dissolved it, and they found under the microscope prints of these strange monsters. It turned out that these spikes on the body were attached to the bottom and filtered the silt for various organic substances. Spaghetti monster. Do you remember this one? It's believed by Pastafarianism followers, a joke religion. But now we'll talk about another monster that's quite real. This strange and frightening thing is difficult to describe in any way. On the one hand, it looks like a jellyfish, but it's not. On the other hand, you can see something in it that looks like coral, but it's not the spaghetti monster either. Scientists have come to the conclusion that this is the Siphonophora, a creature consisting of many tiny organisms. Each of them performs its own task. By the way, this is no longer a prehistoric monster, but a creature living with us right now. Periodically, scientists stumble upon it at great depths, and this allows them to study it little by little. They found out that the creature is capable of releasing filaments up to 33 feet long to grab food. They also learned that the upper part of the siphonophore, this jellyfish-like float here, is filled with gas, and its contraction helps the creature dive to greater depths. Now imagine you're snorkeling and scuba diving, floating underwater, turning your head and see this. One or even two of these monsters with huge bottomless eyes that stare straight into your soul. Scenario's just like a nightmare, isn't it? In fact, such a face-to-face encounter could really only happen in a dream, or at least through the sturdy glass of a bath escape. It's a deep-sea anglerfish, and luckily for us, it lives in very deep water. Thank nature for keeping these fish away from us. The fish gets its name for its axe-like shape. In addition to this and expressive eyes, it has another trick. It emits light. But not like deep-sea anglers, another creepy sea creature that lures victims with a brightly colored fishing rod. Sea devils glow thanks to bioluminescence, and they do it not to attract prey, on the contrary, for camouflage. Photophores are located on the belly of the fish, and their luminescence makes the axes invisible from below, as if dissolving the silhouette of the fish against the background of sunlight penetrating to the depth. But they don't worry about the inhabitants higher up. Deep-sea anglerfish feed on them, tracking the prey with tubular eyes directed upward. Goblin shark. Almost any shark can be called creepy, but the goblin managed to stand out even against the background of its toothy and dangerous relatives. This fish has a very long, beak-like outgrowth, retractable jaws with bent teeth, and coloration is close to pink. Even blood vessels shine through the translucent skin. This shark is a good hunter, but I think it can kill the prey just by its appearance. It must be dying of fear. But seriously, the goblin shark feeds on squids, crabs, and fish. It catches them at great depths. Yes, as you've understood, the man with this shark does not cross, only in very rare cases. The goblin rises to the surface, and that's not out of its choice. Either breathless individuals end up on the shore, or these sharks are accidentally caught. But a diver might come across another frightening shark. This one. It looks really creepy in the water, but here's what it looks like on the surface. The jaws are phenomenal. It could fit a man in it. It's uncomfortable even from the frames. But in fact, the fish is scary only in appearance. It's a megamouth shark, and it's one of the few kind and safe sharks. Along with the whale shark and the giant shark, it feeds on plankton and poses no danger to us, even despite the crazy, bottomless mouth that it's nicknamed after. And besides, I exaggerated about the diver's encounter with this shark. It's almost impossible to run into. The megamouth shark lives at different depths, from minimal to significant ones in the area of half a mile to about a mile. In addition, they're distributed throughout the tropical world ocean, and they're characterized by special secrecy. Throughout history, people have found only a little more than 100 of these sharks, so the species has not even had time to be properly studied. Nodosaurus. Today, you've already seen a Tully monster that remotely resembles the Loch Ness monster. However, the Nodosaurus bears a much greater resemblance to Nessie. Only, unlike the Loch Ness monster, Nodosaurus was more than real. It lived in the ocean over 200 million years ago. At the end of its long neck was a flat, oblong skull with powerful jaws. Nodosaurus had sharp, interlocking teeth, some of them in the form of paired fangs. The whole thing was a full-fledged trap for fish that fed on this frightening prehistoric monster. By the way, unlike all the other monsters in this selection that you've already seen, Nodosaurus also went ashore. These marine lizards reproduce there. Chimera. In general, this is the name of the organism consisting of heterogeneous cells. This creepy fish has also received such a name. It lives on the planet right now, dwelling mostly at a solid depth. Chimeras are also called ghost sharks because of some similarity to toothy predators, but in fact they have nothing in common with them. They're separate animals with their own specialties. For example, they have a poisonous spike that sticks out in front of the first dorsal fin. Poison's not lethal to humans, but it still hits them hard. Don't worry, chimeras are not only deep dwellers, but they're also quite secretive, not in plain sight. So they still could not study them fully. Tanystropheus. And again, we have a prehistoric monster, and someone who resembles the Loch Ness monster. Tanystropheus inhabited the planet over 200 million years ago, and it must have amazed everyone around it with its insanely long neck. You bet! It stretched to a length of 11.5 feet. It's believed that it was 3.5 feet longer than that of modern giraffes. Actually, the neck is still debated about what kind of lifestyle this creature led. Someone believes that it sat on the shore, resting its powerful paws on the soil or stone, stretching its neck and catching sea creatures like a fisherman. And someone is sure that Tanystropheus was an excellent swimmer. It spent most of its life in the water, and it hunted prey like modern giant sharks, swimming slowly and swallowing everything in its path. Let's go back to our time and take a look at the modern creepy inhabitant of the seas and oceans. Its name is the celestial eye. It's in a bad sense of this word. The fish got its name thanks to the eyes. Huge eyes that stare somewhere upwards as if looking at the stars. In fact, the celestial eye doesn't care about the stars, it's really watching fish. The creepy creature assesses the situation and instantly snatches the victim as soon as it's at a suitable distance. Interestingly, the celestial eye itself is very slow. It's only attacks that are fast. So it just lies in the sand and is in no hurry. And by the way, this is the case when the fish is dangerous for us too. The celestial eye has poisonous spines that it camouflages in the sand. You can accidentally step on a starry-eyed one, and such contact can end very badly, up to a lethal outcome. Black swallower. But we cannot cross paths with this monster. As you've already realized today, many frightening inhabitants of the sea live at great depths, and the black swallower is among them. It's not dangerous to us, except that it can scare us with its epic appearance. And if he lived at the surface of the sea, it would hardly cause harm. The fish is only 10 inches in length. But other fish and other sea creatures are not enviable. The black swallower hunts them, and it's not limited to small things, it's just the opposite. His peculiarity is that he can eat prey much larger than himself. There have been cases when it devoured the victim that was 10 times heavier and twice as long as it. The gastropod is able to do this thanks to a particularly elastic stomach, which stretches perfectly. The monster swallows the big guy, it grows in size, and it digests the food, or dies. The thing is that sometimes black swallower cannot fully digest large prey. Air accumulates inside them, and it pushes the fish to the surface where the predator dies, paying for his gluttony. An eagle owl that covered itself 150 years long, a chameleon the size of a nail, a chocolate frog from Harry Potter, and much more. Next, you'll see the latest species discovered by people. We start with this ambivalent shot my subscriber sent me. According to his words, somewhere in Africa, people found a completely new species of pigs that surprisingly wasn't a domestic one. These creatures were roaming around at night and ate other living creatures. Yes, the pigs usually eat carrots, grass, and similar food, whereas these cleverer specimens went further in this respect. I don't know how true this shot is, but it drew a big response in the society and made the residents of many villages set night observation cameras to make sure that these monsters exist in the region. What do you think of that? Can such pigs exist in reality? Or was it all a large-scale hoax? Write in the comments. Rarest encounter. People know a lot about the eagle owls, but are you aware that this popular at first sight genius includes separate rare species that scientists have been chasing down for hundreds of years? We're talking about the Shelley's eagle owl, living somewhere in West and Central Africa. This specimen is especially interesting for being one of the largest owls in the whole world. What's strange, it's one of the less studied. The Shelley's eagle owl is up to 24 inches long. That seems to be quite a big size. Anyway, even that fact haven't allowed the scientists to find this species for the last 150 years. What's more, for the whole industry in principle, not more than 20 specimens have been found if records are to be trusted. At some point, people started to think that these feathered ones died out. Not likely that they've been hiding that subtly, right? It turned out right the opposite. At last, in 2021, people noticed that rare eagle owl. This giant real owl sat on the tree and was caught by the camera of the scientists. The joy didn't know bounds. The species really does exist. But how does it manage to keep such an incredible secrecy? Even many cameras set on the territory don't help follow them. It's much likely that they have something people don't even guess about, something that lets them disguise. You must admit that it becomes even more interesting to study these eagle owls. After all, that means that some revolutionary discovery follows that if we have more information about them. Possibly that'll change the way we perceive reality. Nano chameleon. Speaking of disguising, the most experienced animal in this respect, according to my personal opinion, is the chameleon. Who am I kidding though? It's exactly chameleon we compare the objects blending in with the environment to. They're perfect at changing their color and turn to a very difficult target for any explorer. It's not an easy task to find this little one somewhere in the forest. Now imagine what could happen if a classical chameleon that reaches 12 inches long were 10 times smaller. You're right, it'd be a hiding guru that'd be very difficult to study. You won't believe that such a specimen was really found. In 2021, scientists discovered a new species with a size starting from half an inch. For the sake of the truth, you should notice that this chameleon, as well as other representatives of its family, are not capable of dramatic change in color. This is typical of bigger lizards. But anyway, it's not that simple to spot this tiny reptile. You've got to be patient, have a practiced eye, and a lot of free time to explore wild forests. We start from this fantastic nose frog found in the Amazonian forests. In 2022, somewhere deep in the tropical forest, scientists came across this singing creature. At first, people didn't understand how it managed to escape so many years. After all, the expeditions there have been literally non-stop. Possibly those were its super secrecy and tendency to hide under the cover of the forest. By the way, leave a like if this creature reminded you of that chocolate frog from Harry Potter the children couldn't catch in the train. Let's come back to reality and surprise how attentive the exploration group was. After all, this specimen is just 1.4 inches long. It's characterized by a considerable snout and a striking similarity to the tapir. The frog is covered by brown, black, and green spots that help it blend in with the forest environment. Despite its small sizes, it's strong and agile enough to find food and, at the same time, not to catch the eye of the predators. Nevertheless, all the subtleties of this creature are still a mystery. It's only in the planning to study the species, but people are calm. They're not worried about the fact that forests on our planet are still provided with a wide biodiversity until now, which means they're in a good health. Cat fox. People have been noticing very strange cats on a French island for several years. They behave some distantly, don't contact with the locals, and have never been seen with usual cats. They differ from the domestic cats with a foxtail and unusual coloration. The locals have been thinking that those are unique introverted cats that don't want to talk with anybody. At the same time, when scientists came to the island, they gasped with surprise. That could be a new animal species. Specialists have been studying these cats for more than 10 years. They collected the animals' fur samples to investigate them, made lab analyses, and so on. Their DNA turned out to be utterly close to that of the African wild cat. It comes out that either we have a new species that came into being not so long ago, some cat fox, or on the contrary, we deal with an endangered species brought to the island many years ago. If you ask me, I wouldn't like that nice cat to die out. After all, it'd be ideal for people who are eager to get such an ideal fox as a pet, but don't do it because it requires wildlife conditions. It's the existence of this giant from Australia that doesn't cause me any worries. The scientists from the Queensland Museum opened and described a new spider species. These dreadful creatures stand out against the common background by the fact that they regularly dig tunnels in the soil, make burrows, and even create special doors. The representatives of the new species are active only at night. The rest of their time they spend without an access to the sunlight. It's exactly for that reason why it was so difficult to find the new species, even despite their sizes. The observation showed that the females never get out. As for the males, they find their way out only 5 to 7 years after they are born. It wasn't possible to find out more about these species. Anyway, something prompts me that the spiders have something they can surprise not only the scientific world, but usual civilians as well. Dinosaur or penguin? This question seems to be maximally stupid and irrelevant. After all, any appropriate scientist will distinguish one from another. However, what was found by paleontologists somewhere in the Mongolian steppes stumped the scientific world. The international group was investigating the remnants found in the southern part of the desert Gobi and revealed a row of unique structural features, pointing at the semi-aquatic way of life and active fish hunting. It's the first known dinosaur out of the modern bird group with a similar structure. Against this background, everybody came up with the thoughts that they have in common with something new we didn't guess about. The new species was named Nadovenator polydontus, translated as the swimming hunter with many teeth. Though their overall amount wasn't clear, there are more of them than we have only in the premaxillary bone, in other words 13 teeth. In addition, judging by the remnants, the ancient creature didn't stand out for its sizes. Together with the tail, it was some half a meter long and not taller than 16 inches. This swimming hunter has an unusual rib morphology. They're oriented as converging in the tail. that's typical of active swimming birds, not only flightless ones, such as penguins, but also flying ones, including razorbills, for example. This structure is useful from the point of view of hydrodynamics that reduces the water resistance. Anyway, that doesn't help flying or just land species. At the same time, this creature was found in the Mongolian steppes where no seas existed even in the ancient times. It comes out that we deal with a small creature whose body build tells us about its sea way of life. This being said, it was discovered far away from the water with a jaw full of teeth, which contradicts to the theory of underwater life. In a nutshell, the scientists have to do with an unsolvable puzzle. Demon shark. The demon shark is a common name for the genus of the underwater sharks. However, that specimen we'll talk about later got its name not for nothing. In reality, it looks terrifying and, what's most important, unusual. It was discovered some 30 years ago. Back then, either due to scientist negligence or just because of information lack, the shark was ranked among the wrong species and delivered to the museum. Just 3 decades later, the scientists turned to it again, examined and confirmed disinformation. It became clear that back then a completely new shark species fell into the hands of scientists they hadn't known. It was finally identified due to its unusual eggs with a unique pattern. This story began in the following way. In 1992, a comparatively small shark was caught, 18.5 inches in length. By mistake, the finding was related to the black gill cat shark and somehow forgotten. The only true fact was that the fish did really belong to the genus, but had unusual peculiarity, making it stand out against the common background. It's all about the sharply white wall eyes the scientists for some reason didn't pay attention to. However, such eyes aren't a common feature of all the deep-sea sharks and are characteristic of another species. Now the investigators would like to reconsider the museum collections, hoping to find other species that were mistakenly classified in the past. I can see everything. The scientists of the Hong Kong Baptist University discovered a surprising creature with 24 eyes in the pond of the Mai Po Nature Reserve in Hong Kong. The specialists studied DNA of this creature and came to the conclusion that it was another jellyfish species belonging to the family of venomous box jellyfish. The jellyfish has a transparent body with the size of 1 inch and 3 long tentacles. By the way, these tentacles have a flat formation due to which the new creature swims faster than all the rest. This jellyfish has more than 20 eyes divided into 4 groups located per 6 eyes in each of the 4 corners of its square shape. This is the first case when a new species of the box jellyfish was discovered in China. The investigators consider that finding this testifies about the rich sea life in Hong Kong that cannot but bring joy even despite its frightening nature. I think that in this episode you've already made sure more than once that our ocean is explored only for a small part of it. So it has enough to surprise us until now. But what you see and hear later will strike you even more. Meet Yeti crab. This hairy divine ocean guard reaches 6 inches long and was first discovered in 2005 during some deep water expedition. I hope I don't have to explain why it was named like that. These white fluffy hairs looking like those Bigfoot are visible not only to me, right? Like its mystical land brethren, Bigfoot, the crab honors the traditions and continues hiding from people. If Yeti lives somewhere underground or in caves and blends in with the surroundings, as legends say, the crab solved this problem in a genial way and went underwater for 1.2 miles. People will never find me here, it thought, and was shocked that the man went that far to find it. The wet specimen of this species is the only one extracted one and preserved in the National Museum of Natural History in Paris. Despite it wasn't studied properly, it's as sure as a gun that the creature is super resilient. Otherwise, how could it exist at such a striking depth, right? Though judging by the creatures invented by nature, that crab can hide a lot of secrets. For example, one day it turned out that Pedofern amoensis lives on the Earth together with us. This small frog species is the tiniest invertebrate in the world. The adult specimen is 0.3 inches long. They're endemic to Papua New Guinea that have been unnoticed for a long time. I think you understand why. It was only in 2009 when they were discovered during the expedition of Papua New Guinea species diversity exploration. The finding was made in the southeast of the island. That night, the investigators managed to record sounds the new species uttered that were not similar to the usual frog singing and resembled insect chirping. The signal sounded like a continuous series of high sounds with a frequency from 8 to 9,500 hertz. The record lasted several minutes, just 5.5 minutes. For this time, the little one managed to utter 355 signals. What they meant, who they were addressed to, and other details were kept in secret. However, it became even more interesting for the investigators to study them. What's more, they were even more motivated to observe them by the fact that these specimens lacked the larval stage. In other words, those were independent combating microunits hatching from the spawns, ready to spread chaos and destruction, punishing everybody for even slightest laughter at their address concerning their size. Now I'll show you even rarer animals born once in 1,000 years. It's been a while since we've had albinos. Let's fix it. Meet the albino raccoon. Surprised? Yes, it turns out that such a creature really exists. They're very different from their striped and dark relatives and outwardly look more like giant possums, rats, or hamsters than raccoons. The unique and rare white fur of these predators is the result of mutations that have occurred in the body. The habits and life features of albino raccoons are the same as those of common raccoons, except that it's more difficult for them to hunt and survive because of their rare fur color. In general, everything's the same as in the case of other albino animals. That's why people try to catch such unique animals and place them in animal reserves and animal centers where people can take care of them. Next, we have another rare animal with an unusual color. Relax, this is not an albino. They will no longer be in the episode. It's the turn of colorful creatures, and the first of them is a pink grasshopper. It's hard to believe that such a creature is even real. It's like a fairy tale character, or at least a Photoshop product, but no, pink grasshoppers actually exist. According to scientists, the unusual color of these insects is the result of a genetic mutation, which is characterized by a violation of the pigmentation of the outer integuments in favor of red, orange, or pink. These grasshoppers look very elegant and cool, but they themselves are clearly not happy with such a mutation. Such creatures are rarely born and even less often live to adulthood. Because of their very bright color, they become an ideal target for predators that detect them in no time. Colorful beauty can be found not only in the grass but also on the ocean floor. Off the coast of North America, along with ordinary lobsters, blue ones can crawl there. And no, this lobster is blue not because it's very cold, it's just another unique animal which is extremely difficult to encounter. Scientists believe that one blue lobster is born among 2 million ordinary individuals. Of course, a unique color is due to a genetic mutation. It causes lobsters to produce excessive levels of dark blue pigment, and as you might have guessed, these arthropods are an ideal target for predators, like pink grasshoppers or albino animals. Only a few blue lobsters manage to survive. That's why they're so rare. Fortunately for them, people usually don't eat such unique creatures. Fishermen consider blue lobsters to be a good omen, so as a rule, they let them go back into the water. And then there are the yellow lobsters. They're not as rare as the blue ones, but they are very unusual. Check them out. Saula. Not only individuals or representatives of some species can be extremely rare, but even the entire animal species as a whole. And the Saula demonstrates this perfectly. This is the even-toed ungulate that lives in Vietnam and Laos. It's also sometimes called the Asian unicorn. Simple fact says that the animal is very rare. It was discovered only in the early 1990s. Just imagine, 30 years ago, no one could simply find this 220-pound creature. The discovery became a sensation. No one expected that at the end of the 20th century, it would still be possible to discover a new, unknown species of large mammals. Although the species is new, it's already on the verge of extinction. According to estimates, there are less than 250 individuals left on the planet. Scientists cannot say the exact number because they can hardly observe saulas. They have to use camera traps or film animals secretly. Scientists in general cannot tell much about saulas because these hoofed animals are very secretive and unsociable. It's known that saulas move singularly or in pairs, that they're timid, and that they're active in the daytime. It's unknown whether scientists will be able to study this rare animal species in detail. But let's hope that they'll have time to get to know saulas better. That's it for today. What from this episode impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.